Do you think fans are beginning to turn on Brock Purdy, who's been one of the biggest fan favorites I can remember?
I think it's happening slowly. I mean, I think all 49er fans like Brock Purdy, myself included, as a person and as a leader. The things he says, he could come on in the press conference and admit that, he has to do better, the mistakes he made. We all like that about Brock Purdy, the guy that buys, Toyotas for his offensive line. That guy, we all like him as a person. But as a quarterback, what he's done this year has turned some heads. More recently, his last few games has been even more so in that regard. And then it doesn't help when stories come out that he's going to want to set the market, the quarterback market. So now you're changing it, right? Like Brock Purdy at $1 million. Yeah, that's good. Brock Purdy at $60 million after performing the way he has recently, that's going to change some people's opinions about him.
Yeah, and I think he had a really big, every starting quarterback has a fan base. He had a pretty specific fan base, and I think they didn't really understand who he is. They projected a lot of stuff on him, like, he's a humble farmer Christian from Iowa. He's not, and he's not gonna want $60 million a year. He's gonna give the Niners a discount. And then when the season started going down, I think a lot of Niner fans were thinking, they're definitely going to get a discount now. It's going to be 3 years. It's going to be the Baker Mayfield deal. And then I think the timing of the leaks right after losing to the Rams, scoring 6 points, getting eliminated essentially from the playoffs, then the leaks come out that no, he's going to get $60 million a year. And you have people like Richard Sherman saying, sorry, folks, if that's the business and you don't know ball, if you have a problem with that. Like, I think it's easy for the average Joe to push back and be like, wow, this is not right.
Yeah, I mean, Brock is not a farmer. He's the son of a businessman. His dad owns a hot tub business, right?
And his dad was a pro athlete too, a minor league baseball player, but a pro athlete.
Yeah, he's the son of a businessman. And they have turned on him. I threw out a poll, but I took a poll on Twitter.
Damn.
After the game yesterday. The question was, is Brock the future franchise quarterback for the 49ers? Had I ran that pool last year after the season, probably 85%.
2 weeks ago after the Chicago Bears game?
Right. Like if I would have thrown it out there, it would have been different. Right now, though, 53% said no. A majority of the people that voted, and it's a lot of people voted, it's like 3,500 people voted so far. 53% said no, he's not the future quarterback for the 49ers. That's concerning. So basically, we're back to the Jimmy era where the fan base is divided in half about the quarterback. That's where we're at right now.
Also, like, he's played almost 50 games. And I think it's easy to see a guy play well for half a year or a year and a half and get excited because you can project. You can say, oh, he's only getting better. His arrow's up. He's so young. But we saw it with Jimmy. We saw it with Kaepernick. Just because you burst onto the scene doesn't mean that you're going to have this steady upward trajectory. And once you get into year 3 of defense coordinators really studying you, and not just defensive coordinators, us watching you, us watching Brock, like we've seen the fourth quarter pick. We know that when he's losing in the fourth quarter, he's not nearly as good as he is in the first half. Like, he's kind of a first half player. He kind of wilts under pressure like the head coach does, like the kicker does. They're kind of like the holy triumvirate of chokers. Sorry.
It does make you wonder, though. Is it that's what makes me wonder, right? Like, they both are pretty much dead on when it comes to their numbers in the fourth quarter. They're both bad in the fourth quarter. They're both bad when losing by one score in the fourth quarter. So is it Brock, or is it Kyle Shanahan, or is it both? But I think the concern for most fans that are watching Brock Purdy, it's not the statistics. It's what he's leaving out there on the field. It's what he's doing in crunch time, in the clutch moments. Is he stepping up and winning the game for his team? There's a lot of the losses the 49ers had this year, very, very close margins in winnable games. And as the quarterback, wins and losses I don't put on a quarterback. But you are a very important player of the team. And when the ball's in your hands, in those moments, are you stepping up and rising to the occasion and winning these games for your team? And the answer this year for Brock Purdy is no, he's not.
Yeah. I think Niner fans have been realistic about what Brock is as a quarterback. They know he's not Josh Allen. I mean, there's a certain segment of Niner fans that are very, you know, beholden to what a certain beat writer says that think he's the next Joe Montana. But most, like 90% of Niner fans understand what he is as a quarterback. Good quarterback, not a great quarterback. And I think when he's on his rookie deal, he's impossible to criticize. Even if he throws the pick to lose the game, it's easy to say, well, what about these veteran offensive linemen? How come they can't give him a better pocket? Like, you're going to give that guy every excuse. And again, I think fans were projecting like, okay, this humble young man, like he's going to give the Niners a discount, and I'm always going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. But once it becomes clear that he's just like every other professional athlete, he's going to want that $250+ million contract, which is just disgusting. I mean, the fact that that's the quarterback market now, it's unseemly. It's just unseemly. And I think a lot of average Americans are going to look at him way different when it's like, guys, you were really naive the whole time. I don't know what you think who you think these pro athletes are, but they're competitive. They want to be the best. They want to be compensated like they're the best. Anyway, I think that's as fans realize that he's just like every other pro athlete, they're going to treat him like every other pro athlete, not like their little brother, their little cousin, little Brock.
And fans, I think also realize now that, like when he's first starting off, he was on that tear, right? And there was this potential possibility that Brock Purdy was such an elite processor that he could be an elite quarterback. People were comparing to him, Joe Montana, for whatever reason. They were saying that about Brock Purdy. But now that we've had this time to evaluate him fully with and without a bunch of players around him, with and without injury, what we're seeing is that Brock Purdy does not have that potential to be elite. He's just never going to be elite. And I think even the people that think he's our future as a franchise quarterback also understand, most of them understand that, they determine what franchise quarterback means differently. Like, they're like, he's good enough. He's top 12 in that range. But even they know he's not Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and he's never going to be.
And you can't deny that he's had the same career trajectory as Jimmy Garoppolo, even though they're different quarterbacks. On this team, I mean, you get inserted onto the team late in the season, you make a run. In Jimmy's case, he came back the next year, tore his ACL. But throw that away. Jimmy's next full season goes to the Super Bowl. Brock's next full season goes to the Super Bowl. They both lose. With Jimmy, we know how it went from there. He had a steady decline. He lost confidence. He got injured. He stopped throwing deep well. Look at Brock. He's gotten injured. He's losing confidence. He's not throwing the ball down the field well anymore. It's like, we've seen this before. And maybe this is Kyle Shanahan's effect on the quarterbacks that he coaches, but the idea of giving this guy this much money as he's having the Jimmy Garoppolo downward spiral is scary. And I think the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo happened, that he put up the numbers that he did, that he had the record that he did, that he went to the Raiders and was the biggest flop ever, teams are going to hold that against Brock Purdy. The Niners are going to have that in the back of their minds when they're negotiating with him. And if in some bizarro world they ever were to try to trade Brock Purdy, some team would in the back of their mind being like, yeah, but are we trading for the next Jimmy? How do we know that he can succeed with us? How do we know we're not trading for a backup quarterback? Because that's what the Raiders essentially did. They didn't trade for him, did they? I don't know.
Their production and their path is eerily similar. When you watch them, different quarterbacks, right? Brock's mobile. Jimmy gets the ball out quick. He's very accurate on that. Jimmy is actually very accurate on that first read. Mm-hmm. If he has to go beyond that, he's not good. But Brock's different. He's a scrambler. He's mobile. But from the production standpoint, right? They go 9 games, do really well. They both get injured. 9 games in, both of them.
UCL, ACL.
Both of them at the same time. And then you look at their production since the injury. They go to a Super Bowl. Their numbers are almost identical at this point in their career. Like, it's eerily similar, their production and the path that they've been on. I still prefer Brock over Jimmy because I like his mobility. But it's got to be very concerning for a lot of people, and it seems like it is now that he's going to get paid. That's the thing.
And again, it's never a problem to have a good quarterback making $1 million a year. That's never a problem. So whatever he does, he's not top 5, making $1 million a year. But it is a problem to pay $60 million a year for a good quarterback. Yeah. Good isn't good enough at $60 million a year, unfortunately. You got to be top 5 minimum. And he never was, never will be. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing to swallow right now for fans, myself included. It's just like this dude's never going to be elite. I think we all know that now, even as biggest supporters, depending on what your definition of elite is. I think most people realize Brock Purdy's not going to be an elite quarterback in the NFL, and then we're going to pay him elite money. Like, that's tough. That's tough. That feels like we're setting ourselves up for failure for years to come.
And it's like this organization has leverage. If it were the DeBartolos, they would use the leverage. He's under contract next year. He's coming off a down season. He hasn't earned an extension. You give a guy an extension early, as soon as he's eligible for one, because he's coming off an all-pro year, and you feel like you have no choice, or you're eager to lock him up. Like he has proven that he's a franchise cornerstone. Brock hasn't done that, and to make him one of the highest paid players in the league, like by far the highest paid player in the team, I don't even know if it would how the locker room would take it. I mean, they see what he's doing. You don't think that they're holding him responsible for some of this when he's the one scrambling around, getting sacked and throwing picks?
Yeah, it's not a good look, man. That's what I guess I was so upset about last night when I did my reaction show. Is like, we can't beat the Dolphins. Like, you're going to throw another interception in crunch time, dude. Like, and I understand.
I heard Niner fans say that too is trash.
Right. Yeah. And what was the difference between those two guys last night?
He was the better quarterback than Brock. I'm sorry. Tua didn't throw a pick on 1st and 10 in the fourth quarter that he didn't have to throw. Oh, he got hit. Who the hell asked you to throw that ball? And we saw the all 22. The nickel was right there. You weren't going to layer the ball over him. It was a bad throw, bad decision.
I think what we're doing is settling with Brock Purdy, and that I don't like doing that. I understand finding an elite quarterback is just hard to find. There's like 4 or 6 of them, depending on how you rank them. But so it's not easy. But that doesn't mean that you just accept it, that you're not going to find one, especially in this franchise, in this history.
If the Vikings have Sam Darnold having a career year and they haven't even begun contract extension talks with Darnold because they need to see more, they need to see him in the playoffs, they have high standards. In what world, how did the Vikings develop higher standards than the 49ers? If that's how the Vikings are approaching it, hey, we're a special team. We've had success with multiple quarterbacks. We kind of made Darnold. We don't need to overreact here. Let's keep our heads. Let's use our leverage. Why would the Niners not act that? The freaking 49ers, the Vikings.
Well, here's the thing is the Niners have come out and said things that it's hard to back off away from, right? York says, I'm fully prepared to pay Brock Purdy the best money or whatever he said. Kyle Shanahan messed up on Trey Lance after trading 3 first-round draft picks for him, which was a bad decision. And then he says Brock's the real deal. So here's the savior. We got Brock, though, so don't worry about it. He's the real deal. He's good to go. And now you're seeing what's happening. So how do you back off of that now if you're Kyle Shanahan? You screwed up on Trey, and now what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Tell us that Brock's not the guy after you said he's the real deal? It's just you painted themselves in a corner.
I got a prediction. We've talked so much about what the Niners should do with Brock. Here's my prediction of what's going to happen. They're going to get that contract extension done with Brock really fast. Really fast. First thing in the offseason. They're going to get that done. That's my prediction. They're not going to have any holdout. It's going to be a lot of freaking money. It's going to look like $55 to $60 million a year. It may be team friendly in the way it's structured, but they're going to get it done. It's going to be high priority. They're not going to mess around like they did with Ayuk and Trent Williams. Why do I feel that way? I don't know. All I know is that with Christian McCaffrey, he wanted a new deal. He got that in 2 weeks. And then the head coach went to his freaking wedding. I feel like Brock's going to get that treatment. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I think they're going to get it done quick. And I feel like people in the locker room are going to be like, wait a second. How come he didn't have to wait around and go through the rigmarole I had to go through? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think I think Brock's team or whoever put out that story about him wanting to set the market was just kind of posturing. And I think they know that's not going to happen, especially now. And they'll be lucky to get a deal from the 49ers. So the 49ers can do Brock a favor and make it seem like he's getting paid a ton of money. But really, when you dive into the details, it's not that much guaranteed, and it's not for that long of a term. I think 3 years is probably the max guarantee we'll see for Brock Purdy.
I feel it. I feel like the Niners are in this spot where they keep trying to like increase ticket prices and season ticket prices, and they're trying to sell to their fan base like we have a really special team with a really special coach and a really special quarterback, and this we're going to be a dynasty. And they can't sell that baloney to the faithful if they start trading coaches and quarterbacks and hedging their bets and bringing in other guys and pissing people off. I think the Yorks just want to sell fans like we got the team. And if for whatever reason we don't make the playoffs, there's a reason, probably injuries. And unfortunately, like 65% of the fan base goes for it.
Yeah.
I made that number up.
I think you and I have similar feelings about Kyle. My take has always been this year, it's year 8. I don't care about excuses. If you don't make the playoffs with this roster, then I would want to trade you. I know what your take has always been, but I think both of us probably assume that's not going to happen. But if Jed York's missing out on money next year, right? Because not making the playoffs costs Jed York money. It makes it harder for him to market the product, which is the 49ers. That costs him money. If it happens again next year, I'm pretty sure Kyle would be gone.